My name is Talia. I'm part of the marketing team at Amber Road, and I'll be your host today. So in today's webinar, we're going to be explaining how you can build a global control tower to enable a seamless process from design to delivery over your entire global supply chain. So now, a few words about our speaker, Jakub. Jakub's background is within the supply chain technology sector. He has extensive experience working with 3PL and 4PL industries and numerous technology providers. His passion is to solve complex industry challenges and develop innovative solutions to add value to the various organizations he collaborates with. His portfolio, which reaches across various sectors, allows him to truly understand major global trade and supply chain issues. Some of his projects include the elaboration of DHL Customers Visibility Platform, Exxon's Ocean Booking and Visibility Platform, as well as Syngenta's Global Atlantis projects. Jakub is also interested in emerging technologies such as Internet of Things and blockchain, and defining their best use cases. So everyone, please welcome Jakub.
Yes, Talia, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction, and welcome everyone for our webinar today. And I hope that you will really take away some valuable advices and knowledge about the control tower as well as about the supply chain visibility. So let's just proceed without further ado, and let's see what we have next. So here in Amber Road, as well as I personally believe that supply chain visibility is very broad expression. Typically or historically, we look at visibility as kind of a track and tracing of a container. Now, we believe there's more than that. It's actually much broader than even a physical shipment movement. We believe it starts with the product design, product searching for a product producer or vendor as such, doing some sort of a elaboration on costing, and also continuing with the process where we would be placing an order to this vendor or to this supplier and tracking the vendor as it is being producing the cargo, as well as shipping it out of the origin. And we also believe that it continues over into a in-transit visibility, so that's the traditional kind of a track and trace, but there's more to it, and it continues into destination and into receiving part. Alongside, and we also believe this is part of the visibility as such, they are kind of supplementary processes, and that is primarily import and export compliance. So if you're trading something from China over to Europe, you need to make sure that you're exporting according to regulations, and on the import side that you know that you can, for example, import some particular goods or particular materials. And also we believe that part of the supply chain visibility is working with your costs of your supply chain. So A, the cost of your product, and B, also cost of your transportation and your customs duties. Now, when I said this kind of a very broad definition of supply chain visibility, we are also aware that this is usually, you would need a comprehensive partner and technology to achieve that. Now, when we set this as a scene, we would like to pause for a minute or for a few seconds, and we would like to ask you to address and to tell us what kind of expectation you have up to now from your visibility tool or from your visibility solution. Now, I believe Talia will be presenting you the poll question, and we would kindly ask you to look at it and to answer the questions.
Yes, the poll should appear now on everyone's screen. I see some answers are coming in.
Perfect. So the question we would like to ask or address at the beginning of the session is, what do you now expect from your visibility solution? The answers are multiple. It's either obtaining info, where is your shipment, or it's increasing your data quality from your supply chain, or is to provide a path to address your issues, so for example, delays or disruptions, or it is realizing savings on the transportation cost, or it is save or inventory, meaning inventory optimization. So please take your few seconds and give us a answer to one of these. We are very curious what you're going to say.
Yeah, it looks like everyone has voted.
Very good.
And you should be able to see what everyone has answered now.
Very good. And thank you guys for the answer. And I have to a little bit apologize because we kind of put you into this spot of picking one of these. And I think it must have been a kind of a hard task because we believe for many companies in the market, there is definitely more than one. There is perhaps 2 or 3 or combination of these answers, as well as they may be answers or they may be reasons why you're interested into this topic outside of this list. So it's only for us really to obtain to some sort of entry point to see where the industry, where each one of you is coming from and what do you kind of expect. So thank you for that. That's very good. Let's continue from here next. So let's maybe talk a little bit on a little bit methodical level. What do we consider as a part of the supply chain? I mean, I like pictures. I like, as a guy from the industry where I did tons of as is and to be process and redesigns, I like the arrows and flow charts. So I kind of tried to put it here into this 4 kind of boxes. And it's very generic. So let me kind of quickly in a minute go through that. So first thing is, of course, for supply chain is that we need to define what is the data. So what do we capture? Where do we start? Do we start only with the shipment and it ends with the delivery? That's also fine, right? Or do we start even pre-shipment, so with the order, and we continue into shipment and delivery and into cost reconciliation? Or a third option is we start even with the design of a process, of the product, and we continue into shipping part. So this is a definition of what data to capture. Then second step is, of course, we need to collect those data, integrate them. There's various means, technological means, which we need to employ here, how to get the data and obtain them into one logical place. It's very important to say it has to be a logical location. Third level is really to create intelligence. So to basically say, what does my data mean to me? Again, depends on what's the original definition of what do I need to track. So for example, if I need to track on it time and am I having on-time deliveries versus what I promised to my customer, then I most likely only need to capture the dates of the shipping. Or if I need to basically assure that my products are compliant with the security and regulations in a given country, maybe I need to also capture a lot of data about the products, like classification, product weights, description, licenses or product descriptions, and so on. And then finally, and that's the most important thing, we would, out of all this collected data and interpreted data, we would be able to draw a decision. So, and the decisions could be really done on 3 levels, at least what I would see at this point of time. Decisions on the planning. So I'm exporting next year this amount of products to a country A. So what do I all need for that? Or on the execution, on the transactional level, so to say. So I'm able to really troubleshoot a shipment as it goes, and if it goes into some problems or delays or it gets stuck in customs, so I'm able to basically do decisions about these situations. Or subsequently, once all my trade is finished, cross-border trade is finished, then basically I would be able to interpret what has happened, what went wrong, analyze, and evaluate performance of each of the member in the supply chain. Now, we believe that there is key 3 prerequisites to implement or for any supply chain / control tower initiative in any of the company. One of the key, of course, is a data quality. Obviously, we need to get a decent data quality in order to have a decent interpretation of the data. Second one is organizational willingness. What we see also from our customers, as well as from my personal experience, initiatives of a global trade, a global control tower, and supply chain visibility need to be sponsored on a very high level. It is usually not the interest of the local offices or local subsidiaries. It has to be really top-down decision. And the third one, which also is very important, companies need to find a decent and capable partner with a decent technology background to implement all this complexity. Let me now be a little bit of a devil advocate here, and let me be of a little bit of challenger to each of the industry. I believe that outlining some of these challenges could make it clear why there is a need for a global control tower. Let's take retailers. Retailers are today under tremendous pressure from competition, from regulations, but also from naughty customers, right? Customers are very picky and very demanding, and they are very well informed. There is this phenomenon of showrooming and web rooming. So your customers come to your store, they kind of use your floor, use your time, they try things out, they touch things, so to say, and then they go off and they order online. Now, in the preferred way, they order on your own online store, but they may also go into the competitor. Now, the reverse of this is what is called a web rooming. So you make a selection online, but you still want to have a final touch before you buy, right? Or even if you would like to book online, which I personally do as well a lot, I know that the part may come in only 10 days, but if I go to the store just down the street, I know I get it today or tomorrow whenever I go there. Now, this, of course, imposes a lot of other changes, but those I want to talk about are those on your supply chain. Is your omni-channel strategy properly in place? Are you able to reallocate inventory from one channel, from the physical store, into another, the online store? Are you able to work with your on-hand inventory and in-transit inventory to basically address spikes in the demand, right? It may well be that suddenly you have a lot of orders online versus your mortar stores are behind, right? It may also be the vice versa. I'm not really a retailer expert, but I know that these are the topics in the industry in terms of a supply chain impact. So this is retailers. Let's talk about manufacturers for a minute. Manufacturers, at least those we talk to or which I have been in touch with, a lot of them went, or the large ones, the multinational corporations, went through a large intensive growth over the past years, and they may have, through the merger and acquisition, get a lot of other new subsidiaries and new small companies in various locations of the world. And what we see typically, there is a disparate level of digitalization of these subsidiaries and plans. And that leads to various levels of data quality, the various level of digitalization, and subsequently also a lower level of supply chain visibility, and subsequently to problems with, for example, data quality for the outbound supply chain. So many of the large manufacturers face this option, and they, in this sense, they may actually not be only looking on the outer supply chain issues, but also into the inner supply chain issues in their own organization. Now, across all of the industry of supply chain, or all of the areas of the supply chain, there is also other challenges which are there out in the world. Of course, none of us wants to miss sales due to unavailability of a part or of a goods, or miss production because of missing part or material. The other interesting area is the direct shipment. Sometimes we need to do a direct shipments from our suppliers to the customer because we want to fulfill the need of our customer. But where do we have the visibility of these shipments? Because often we just don't even touch those shipments. So where is the visibility, and how do we make sure that the customer is satisfied and serviced properly? Another aspect is just-in-time operation. Just-in-time, typically, we do talk about in the automotive industry, but I would also take it into the general assurance of supply level in supply chain. So just making sure that your 2 containers for your key customer gets on this particular vessel on that particular date and no day later, right? Where we have these assurance. How do we transfer, or how do we work with our inventory, which is in transit versus inventory at hand or at rest? Are we able to swap from one to another? And then last but not least, how do we work with the transit times and volatility of the transit times? This is a little bit customer facing. Whenever a customer gives us an order to deliver, say, to Brazil, are we able to commit to a time which we think it will be transferred there, and what assurance or what security we have in this? So these are some of the challenges from the industry which we know. And I just want to use this to set kind of scene so as you understand where all the aspects comes to employee control tower and supply chain visibility. We in Embro, we talk about the key success factors or the value drivers in these kind of 5 buckets, so to say. The first 3 are those in the area of point of differentiation, where basically you can gain agility, you can gain the increased innovation level and speed to market. And then on the right-hand side, you have the imperative benefits, the tangible things. So basically the cost reduction or risk or cost mitigation, I would put it this way. Let's scratch the surface a little bit deeper and let's talk about the particular value drivers, which our customers do realize whenever they implement the control tower and supply chain visibility. I have prepared here 5 of them, not necessarily in this order are they important. It's just me as Jacob. I think this is the list of the important. So let's go through that. Of course, the very first one is a customer, right? Customer is the first. And it's really the working on the area of improving on time and in full performance of the delivery. We see the biggest gains here, and most of the customers really go into the control tower initiatives because of this. And the way we realize it is basically through real-time updates and through a dynamic ETA. Now, again, the terminology may kind of suggest we talk about transportation ETA, but it may not be only transportation ETA. It may be really your vendor who is committing to a cargo ready date. So whenever he's able to ship out from the origin, right? This is what you need to also control and monitor. So this is also part of this whole value bucket of on time and in full. Typical teams inside the companies who consume this value is the customer service, and they are able, basically, they are equipped, let's put it this way, with the agility to be able to react in time to what has happened and to basically collaborate and address the issues as they happen. So this is one large basket. Second basket is avoiding of costs or minimizing costs or risk, even in a broader sense. Here I have prepared some 4 balloons, my colorful balloons here, right? The evergreen is a demurrage detention. This is very ocean, where basically companies want to save on demurrage detention, even though I have to say from my experience, demurrage detention tends to be regional or local, but to some companies it still represents large bucket of their transportation spend. The other area, which is I think more eminent, is the air freight cost. So basically, it's about the reduction of the expedited air freight cost, meaning because of, and we have seen it with especially the outbound logistics to the final customers. If we don't have a visibility where the part is and whether it's going to be arriving on time, often companies, because of uncertainty, they place another order for the same part which they expedited through air. I think this is really not necessary and it has to be avoided. Still, quite a few companies in the industry do experience this issue. I'm not talking about the air freight, which is relevant. For example, pharma industry has a relevant portion of air deliveries, and that's all fine. So this is not what we talk about right here. Another area is denied party screening. Obviously, whenever we do trade, we don't want to trade with someone who is bad, right? Bad guy in the community, and definitely we don't want to get caught with a fine from the authorities doing that. And then the last one here in this row is a prediction of your duties and taxes, which I think is an excellent driver. Basically, upfront, you can know whenever you export into a given destination country. So I take an example of Germany to Brazil exporting chemicals. You know what kind of duties and taxes you should pay, and that avoids you future surprises. And also, you can make a reservation in your financial systems for that. All right, so that was enough cost. Let's continue with the inventory. Well, inventory is also cost, so depends how we look at it, really. We also know that a large portion of our customers look at their inventory. Again, optimization in the supply chain is about having visibility of what is outside of your four walls. So what is outside of your own organization. And because companies do not know what is outside of the four walls, they tend to be secured up. And so they tend to have a safety stocks on each end. Now, because the visibility is brought into this picture, is you basically have a view on your trail lane, again, from, for example, China to Europe, you see what is coming in and when, you can basically eliminate your extra safety stock in your pipeline. I will get a slide on this topic in a little bit later. Very good value driver facing customer is a reduction of cycle time, or basically determining what is the real transit or lead time and taking it back into your ERP systems or CRM systems to be able to do a correct available to promise commitments whenever you take orders. So this is also great value drivers. And the last one, but not least, is the improvement of the operational operations internally or externally. So basically, this is the example that your internal operation, again, I say in Russia, for this case, the warehouse in Moscow knows what shipments are coming tomorrow and can prepare and organize the staff and the place for that, as well as it is the partner in China, the custom partner in China, knowing what is arriving tomorrow, and he can prepare and work on the custom documents and have things up front. And should there a document be missing, can basically issue some sort of warning to the origin office to obtain that particular document. So this is the internal operation values. I have here at the last box the strategic analytics. I wouldn't say strategic analytics is only for the last point. It's across all of these points. And it's really looking at the historical data and looking, it's a bit of a BI tool, BI approach, whatever you really call it, where you can analyze what was the average performance, what was the deviations, and then drill down where the deviation happened in your supply chain and why did they happen. So there is a lot of possibilities in this segment as well, right?
Jakob, before we move on to the next slide, we've received an interesting question from one of our attendees. They've asked, do all customers actually realize all of these gains?
That's interesting. That's interesting, Talia. Yes, not necessarily all of them, really. It is depending on the customer and their current situation of their maturity in the visibility. I will be talking about it in a minute. But you're right that not necessarily all of them are there. I know, for example, automotive spare part customer I was working with was primarily working on the mitigation of the extra costs and on the improving of the inventory. I know that, for example, 3PL operations do work primarily on the operational, improving internal operations. And of course, the on-time and in-full performance. So that also varies. I'm kind of drawing out possibilities and options, which we know. And it may also be different, A, by industry, and B, by the maturity of the customer. Thank you for that. That's an interesting question. All right, so let me continue with the next step. So when we talk about visibility on a more technical level or process level, we talk about 3 levels of visibility. It is the traditional, or I would call it old, a little bit obsolete, the where is my shipment type of visibility. So equipment and shipment tracing. That's the DHL and FedEx and the carrier website, wherever you can basically log in and do your reference, enter your reference, and then you find out where thing is and what's the approximate ETA. Now, this is only visibility for the particular shipment from the very beginning of the shipment to the very end of the shipment. Now, second level, which I think a lot of companies now go into as well, is a product level shipment. So basically, you know that inside those shipments, the lower part inside those equipments, there is a certain product. This is very good for optimization of your, typically in the internal flows, right, between your subsidiary in one country to another. Then you know what inventory you have in pipe, and you can count on that. The level 3, the order level end-to-end visibility, would be the most elaborate in the sense where I am marrying my shipment to my inventory, and I also marry the inventory with my commitments to my customer, right? So I took an order from my customer to deliver to Brazil, for example, again, and I know it's consisting of these 2 products distributed in these 5 equipments. So basically, in this level, you would be asking, are my goods on time and in full? This is the key question. We will get back to that. I just want to kind of elaborate on these 3 levels. Next, I want to talk about some of the concepts or some of the value drivers in more details, what we have been outlining in the previous the 2 slides before, and kind of explain some of the concepts which we realize with the control tower implementation. So the first one, and kind of my favorite one, is the safety stock reduction, or working with your safety stock. The key thing to remember here is about a confidence. The key word here is really a confidence. It is the confidence of the demand planners or customer representatives, or perhaps customer support, right? That they can count on things arriving on time. What happens historically, companies do maintain, and you kind of can see it on the picture on the very right, they do maintain some level of safety stock on either at their destination or their plant in production. And the safety stock is there just because we know the shipments are not arriving on time, or we don't know whether they arrive, or they may arrive on time, but there's a volatility, and they may or may not come. So let's have a lot to be on the safe side. This 550 parts on stock, and that's caused by the red box, which basically says I have no idea when it is coming, or I may have the idea, but I need to log into tons of websites, and I have to collect it, and I have to ask for Excel sheets and do this all manual work. Now, with the control tower being implemented, our customer do realize that they have some sort of an inventory in transit. So they can count on the shipments which are in transit, and they can know with some approximation, of course, when do these products arrive to the destination. They can count on that, and they basically, based on this confidence and security, this is the key word, as I said, they can reduce the safety stock on the destination. I would even extend this process, not only inventory in transit, but you can also count on inventory at origin, meaning not being loaded but being basically produced, or inventory at order, meaning being in production. Again, the more time ahead, the less likely less trust you can put in this, but still it plays a role in the inventory planning. So this is one way we can look at the safety stock reduction. The other way is also, and some companies did realize a great value on this, is reducing their transit time. Meaning often the transit times are very conservative given by carrier, and by having the actual transit time over time, companies know that, for example, the shipment from China to Europe is not arriving always in 30 days like my carrier tells me, but it's coming in 27 days. So maybe I can save 3 days of inventory in there. So it's another way how the safety inventory could be optimized. I'm not saying we will totally get rid of it, but it's basically the concept of looking at it and optimizing it and reducing it, right? So that's this one. One of the other area is also this is more related to the on time and in full. We see it in the outbound logistics, typically outbound logistics from our customers to their customers, where there is no subsidiary at the destination. Typically, customers do have a very good visibility and good agility, that's just important to say, in the origin. Whenever they have their warehouse, they have their system, they even have the trucker that they know, and until it kind of hits the port of departure or airport of origin, they kind of have a good hand of it. But this hand and this control decreases when it's in transit, and it's very less whenever it is at the destination process. So again, the control tower is here in place to provide especially for the last mile or the last destination level, provide the great visibility and great operational flexibility. Let's talk about the on time and in full delivery. So I'm a person of a graphic expression, so I like to have some drawings. So let me try to do something for you here. So imagine you have your customer who placed an order, and expresses expected date of delivery is 25th of April next month. You are calculated backwards in your ERP system. You know that in order to hit this date, you need to ship out on 25th of this month in March, right? That's all fine. This is all planned. You commit to your customer, you place this into production, and off you go. Now, a reality happens, and something is wrong. Already the ship out at your destination or your plant is late. Now, the question is why, but the why is then a question for the analytics. Now we have the exclamator, so we have to do something about it. Your carrier or 3PL picked that up because that's what he was contracted to do and ship it out of origin. Now, he also provided you the estimation of destination arrival as well as the current ETA to the final destination. You look at it, oh, well, that's not looking that bad, but still I have possibly a problem why this happened here. Now, to make the situation even more complex or more challenging, your customer comes back and says, well, listen, I need that cargo earlier. I need that basically some 4 days earlier because it's very important for my production. Now, you can, of course, see what's the relationship with the customer, discuss or negotiate. But anyway, from the supply chain perspective, you may be in problem, and you need to look at these exclamators, so these alerts out of your supply chain or out of your control tower. Now, the control tower lets you or lets your operation teams really to look at the key customers and the high risk items primarily, right? It also lets you to define certain diversions or certain scenarios, what to do if, and then unbound on these scenarios should this case happen. Very, very important also is that you can, at some degree, you can predict something may happen with this type of shipment because there was issues with this partner in the past, or because there were issues with this particular product in the past as well. So it's kind of a little bit of analytics in the process, right? And the bottom line is the control tower will allow you to increase your opportunities not to miss sales or not to miss production. That's the key thing, right? Now, the picture on top, I still keep it open. I cannot do it purposely because it's disturbing. We have two problems identified in this particular supply chain, and it needs to be addressed. But the message here is the control tower, with the properly being employed in the organizations, could help you to look directly at these kind of situations. Let's continue more on this. Again, the same topic of the on-time and in full delivery. You can go even earlier in the process to manage the process and to straighten it up. You can basically look on how is your supplier, and now this could be external supplier, or it could be also your internal plant, say in China. So how do they commit to the what do you expect from them? How do they commit to a quantity, for example, or date, or other elements of what is important for your shipping data? Basically, you may be in a position to set certain tolerances, and should there be this tolerance to be exceeded, this is a warning sign, and it's warning sign already quite ahead of your in your supply chain planning. So this is at the time of a purchase order placement. So should this vendor basically be not good and not not providing enough quantity, maybe you have a ways to already address that ahead of time. But the key part here is you need to know. This is the key part to convey here. I also want to maybe elaborate a little bit on the avoidance of costs or avoidance of risks in your supply chain. So the evergreen is the evergreen. Sorry for that, but it's still a large driver. Surprisingly, that's the demurrage detention. Basically, for some of you that may not know, demurrage detention is the type of charges that the ocean liners would give for exceeding extra time of renting the container. So we work on it on two levels. We allow the customers to monitor the time itself, and we would issue some sort of a warning ahead of time before it expires. Should the container be not returned in time? And the second level, we basically do, if it's exceeding that part, we do provide some sort of reporting or risk analysis in terms of providing the accruals for your future finances to basically know that these charges may be coming. This whole concept could be enhanced with the process of reason codes. I'm a little bit off the topic here, but it can be enhanced with the reason codes where you can monitor very well who sort of is in charge of this demurrage detention, or who sort of is delaying the whole process. So these are options all possible in the control tower. I like this one. It's avoiding issues, avoiding risk and costs when it comes to regulations and duties. And this is the extended supply chain visibility. Really, we need to look only. We shouldn't look at the supply chain visibility as tracking of that particle order or tracking of that shipment and see how does it happen. We should look also a little bit left and right, so see what other aspects are there. And we would even challenge our prospects to do that not at the order stage, but do it even earlier at the product level stage, or BOM, so the bill of material stage. So whenever I know I'm exporting my chemical from Germany to Brazil, I need to have these licenses, these regulations fulfilled, and have to have a proper classification in place as such. Now, anyway, if customers decide to do it at the order entry time, that's also fine. And the visibility should really allow to monitor what all licenses I need for export. Say I'm exporting guns. Well, not that I have seen many exporters of guns, but this may be a good topic. Am I actually trading with someone who is who is on the black party list? So do I want to have that, right? It's basically a risk. It's not necessarily a cost yet, but it's a risk. The other part, on the import side, the licenses. Do I help obtain all the licenses for that particular import? There could be regulations of the automotive industry, for example, importing full parts versus spare parts, right? The other area are sanctions. For sure, we should be careful in exporting to the countries which are under some sanctions. Regulations of security and quality, typically food industry or toys, right? And then I think a little bit more tangible, the duties and taxes. So again, as I kind of outlined earlier, it's the prediction of what duties and taxes I would need to pay for my classified product. And that's basically kind of expectation in the future cost. And then talking to our custom broker and aligning of what they de facto did pay for us in the custom process, and monitoring, of course, their performance from there on. Okay, so next slide I have here a kind of an interesting visualization, which should express the way companies can achieve agility through the control tower. Here in this picture, you have this imaginary shipment from Asia to the United States with all the expected events as they should happen, so to say. And this is my plan. And then everything goes well in the origin. My supplier or my internal factory that did, get the things out in time. All the documents are in place. And no issues really, all boarded on board. And then it goes off with the vessel, but then something happens, a disruption, right? And there could be multiple disruptions. It could be the vessel delay because of bad weather. It could be the vessel is broken altogether, right? Or the carrier go bust, right? Go bankrupt. I think this was a case with I believe with OCL some years back. Or it could be a missing document in just before arrival to the destination, right? Or missing filing duty. Whatever is that, you may need to react on this situation. So in the first place, very, very important, we need to access what's the impact, right? So if I know vessel is being stuck somewhere, so I need to know how many containers are on the vessel, what is inside those containers, which products, and which orders, especially customer orders, these products represent. And so here is basically kind of a risk analysis. Now, without a control tower, it will take you days and perhaps even weeks, I don't know, to collect all this information from your carriers and freight forwarders. With the control tower, you have it at the button, at the click of the button information. Then, of course, what's the diversions? What's the next action plan? And there can be multiple, of course, right? It may be still okay because the ETA has not been significantly moved, so perhaps it's still fine, but we just have to watch out. But it may be that it's way late and we have to align all the destination operation to make a speedy recovery of the shipment and delivery to the customer. Or it may be the reallocation of my products of the inventory from some other pipe or from some other customer who is, well, not to say it's not important, but say has a later delivery time or has a different conditions. So whatever is the thing, it's the other thing. You can basically define your strategy in your control tower process. And then it comes to the execution, so basically on the destination. So again, just to stress it out, agility, which is given by the control tower, allows you to react on these situations. You shouldn't be running around doing ad hoc situations, and mainly it gives you a high comfort whenever you talk to your customers, and to your customers also it gives a comfort. Another interesting aspect that the control tower do address, while we talk to some of our customers, especially to those who manage outbounds from them to their customers, they told us that they usually face two issues or two questions whenever they take order in. First one, whether the part is available. So is it available? Is it in stock? Is it to be produced in the plant A or plant B? But the second one, very important, is the transit time. So, okay, I have the part available. I will ship it out of German plant. But what's my transit time to Brazil? Is it 20 days? Or I actually don't know. Can I commit to the 20 days and I give this 20 days as a lead time to the customer? I don't know often. And the experience is telling me, well, how can I trust it? So control tower, one of the key driver is really to obtain the actual lead times. This is typically done after a certain collection of data, after historical analysis. Usually you don't take only one, you take a snapshot of, say, last 3 months. What's the lead time between Germany to Brazil? And one thing is to obtain it. Second thing is to analyze it. Is this volatile, right? Do I have any volatility? Seasonal volatility may be fair, right? Like summer or Christmas, whatever, or seasonal in terms of local holidays. That's all fine. But you want to address the volatility which relates to the underperformance of any member of your supply chain. So either volatility because it ships out late on the origin, or volatility because your 3PL is actually messy and doesn't perform. All of these things you can drive out of the analytics subsequently after you collect all the data. All right. So let me, we're getting to an interesting graph here. Let me a little bit challenge you here, because this is also one of the things we wanted to do. This graph, or this kind of a 5 steps of this visibility journey, is actually from Gartner. The concept is from Gartner, I mean. And it kind of describes 5 levels of maturity of companies in terms of visibility. It starts from the very immature, I would say, siloed approach, where companies are really even internally not connected. That may be, I want to believe there is no such a company, but there may be some. I can imagine that, for example, the situation can be just in the situation where a larger company acquires a smaller company, say in Thailand, right, production site, and that for a few months is basically siloed because the processes and interfaces are not yet defined. But anyway, so that's the step 1. The step 2 is the track and trace, it's the reactive approach. So really looking where the parts are, when is it coming into my destinations and so on. And there's also kind of look on the first step of value realization. That's the leveraging of scale. So typically this is in purchasing power versus the carriers or versus the suppliers, right? So that's the step 2. Step 3 would be more integrated internally supply chain, where it kind of talks about the internal visibility, especially for intercompany flows, and talking about inventory. I know where particular inventory is when it comes to my internal production. And then it builds on top with the step 4, where we talk about collaboration. This is primarily meant as an external collaboration, typically with my external suppliers on one side, or even with the customers on the other side. And how can I drive value and efficiency from there? And the last step, the fifth step, so to say, is the orchestration, the full orchestration, where we know everyone is connected, everyone is collaborative, so contributing data. And third, we see patterns. We see behavior in, say, per trade lane, and we can draw conclusions, either on optimizing it going further or driving some business implications. Am I able, for example, to deliver my product in a different means to the target market, right? So these all things can be drawn out of the fifth level. Maybe I will pause here because we have one more pool to ask you, and we would like to ask you, and I will ask Talia to present the pool question.
Yeah, it should appear any minute now. It's in launch.
Perfect. And the question I want to ask to our attendees is if you can kind of, and again, this is just for orientation. It's not really hard in stone. What step do you think your organization is at out of these five? Again, the step one is the siloed approach. Step two would be the leveraging scale and being track and trace approach, so to say. Third one is more integrated internal visibility level. Fourth one is a collaborative, so you're able to collaborate with the external partners, now being it suppliers or carriers or your customers. And the fifth step is really an orchestrated, summarized supply chain. So please take next 5 minutes, 5 seconds to answer that. And I leave it on Talia to close the pool whenever she feels is full. All right, very interesting. And again, we want to basically have some sort of a feeling of where you coming from, where you think there is an opportunity for improvement. And then we want to basically stress out here that this webinar is also to tell you where all other options are in the improvement. Please don't take it as I said, that this is basically given or kind of carved into stone. This basically should give you opportunity to realize, even though you may be low at the scale where you all can grow, but you can be also high on the scale, but you still maybe have areas where you can improve. So this was the purpose of the pool itself. Okay, let's go. We have a few more information to share. So this graphic is I think that would kind of fit to the situation of step 1 or 2 of the previous model. And maybe some companies are there, say, in certain localities, and you may see that inside every company there's certain systems which are employed either for customer facing or for your planning and optimization or for your transport planning. Now, whenever it comes to the connection to the external world, then you have this kind of a patchwork or spider net of various process interfaces and also physical interfaces, and you need to handle that. You have to kind of manage that. Now, one more thing I want to say is our belief is that in a supply chain, most of the information resides outside of your internal systems. They sit with your carrier, with your supplier, with your 3PL, and so on. And it's important to bring them all at one point of truth. And this is what we kind of foresee with this kind of a vision. Now, I'm optimistic here. I believe that it may really work in this way. There you basically would have a control layer between your internal systems and your external partners. I believe, or in many implementations, we have seen that this is sort of done in a rollout. It may be step by step or function by function, and that's all fine, right? We don't want to have a big bang for everything, but eventually the vision here is to employ a control layer, as I would call it, to see the information as it flows for each of your member and draw value and draw agility out of this layer. All right. Let me quickly still talk about a couple of things. About the emerging technologies. First thing is Internet of Things, IoT. IoT is a game changer. It's a big thing in today's industries. When it comes to supply chain, we believe that one of it is it comes, and that comes really to the area of in-transit visibility, is basically the GPS tracking. We can talk right now about two types of GPS tracking: is the maritime, the vessel tracking, this is allowed by a system AIS, or a tracking for the road transport, wherever a truck will be equipped with a GPS device, and the data of its position will be collected via aggregators. Now, one more thing before I conclude on that. If you know that historically, we do collect the data via interfaces, via EDI, classical EDI. Carrier or trucker do send either to your ERP or to any other platform ADIs, and it's kind of tedious because you have to implement them. That takes time. You have to manage their data quality. That also takes time and your nerves, really. And it also, they may be behind on submitting the data. So there's always a delay, say a few hours or even days, when they report that they have actually delivered. Now, GPS, obviously, it's a game changer because that comes instantly. Now, having said so, we believe that the GPS would, or the Internet of Things in the form of GPS, would play a greater role in doing the middle part of the transportation, meaning it can tell us where is the actual vehicle moving around, what's the updated ETA, what's the next event or location. Information about giving cargo away, pickup, or receiving it, delivery, it still would need to be done by event entry. So basically someone confirming that particular entry. And the reason is because this is really an inherently a confirmation that something has been delivered. Eventually, the delivery, take an example, that event should match up with the physical location of the equipment coming from the GPS. So this is what we believe, and this is what we also talk with many customers of ours. And this is what the future will bring on this. I would not even call it emerging. I would also already call it an established technology. The other one, emerging one, I will shortly talk about is blockchain, of course. And blockchain is a topic on its own. And I believe we will organize a webinar on blockchain topic sometime in June. So stay tuned for that. But the important thing is to say two things. Blockchain is really built for transferring of value. Value meaning something valuable which we need to make sure that it's owned by one party or another. So that's the Bitcoin, that's the coin, that's the money thing, right? The other part is, and that's I think very essential for our supply chain visibility talk, is the inherent nature of immutable record. So basically, something recorded into the blockchain won't be changed. It's basically a final state of that information, and nobody can basically steal it, right? That's what we kind of see with the Bitcoin. Nobody can steal your Bitcoin as such unless you send it to someone. Now, I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I'm talking about the visibility. Where is the value of blockchain in a visibility? And it can really come in primarily in proving the origin of a particular cargo, or even proving of origin of information about the cargo. A very great example in the industry is an application called Everledger, tracing of origin of diamonds, where if you go buy a diamond, then basically you know that it's not a bloody diamond, so you buy the information alongside. It's not only the diamond itself, but you buy an information and assurance you are not buying a controversial piece of diamond, right? So this comes also, the application here is like food safety, or even you can think about, if I buy shoes, I want to make sure that the shoes are not produced in a factory which employs child labor, right? So these are all the values which also Amber Road is working on and investigating as well. Other area is product testing. Is the testing being done accurately and uniquely? So my testing lab will basically be proving that their record is in time and is correct. So they didn't basically copy it from last testing. Same thing for facility and entity compliance. The inspector who is visiting the facility is basically issuing a record on a blockchain, meaning he can't copy it for his next inspection again. So these are some of the insights. I would say that blockchain will most likely not be replacing the visibility tools. It will be going alongside, but it will bring a lot of value. In the longer term, or even broader sense, blockchain also will bring a lot of value in supply chain in sense of, for example, document exchange, a certificate of origin issuing, who owns it, who issued the document, right? So that's what we are talking about. Or license for export, for example. A governmental authority would issue a license to a given person, and it is only for that person, and it can be assured via a blockchain. And then last but not least is the finance. It's still the same story as the original blockchain use case. That's basically the transfer of finances and working with finances in the supply chain. But I think that will be just insight into it. Again, we have another workshop on this later in June. Let me wrap up here. So what we believe in Amber Road, this whole webinar and this whole talk about control tower and supply chain visibility is eventually about digitalizing or creating a digital model of your global supply chain. Once you are able to create a digital model of your supply chain, you are able to gain efficiency, to minimize risks, and to improve agility of that. You're also able to work and to manage your processes within the supply chain, and you have an upfront visibility of something which goes out of the normal. You also have to understand that the control tower, the way we look at it, is not only kind of a read-only tool like a reporting repository, but it's really a tool that provides you and equips you with the collaboration, automation, and analytics. And again, the implicit nature of any control tower need to be that it's processed by exception. You need to look only on those items or processes which are in a problem. You shouldn't look on the masses. Everything goes fine. You don't need to look at it. And it should better give you tools to be better in your decision making, either on your operational level, being agile, or on your strategic level, using the analytics to drive conclusions. Right, so I think this is it, what I prepared for this talk. Thank you very much, and I hope you will take away something from that.
Thank you, Jakob, for a great presentation. So we are going to move on to Q&A. We've received several questions from the attendees. We will only have time to answer one of these questions, as it's been an hour already. But for everyone else who has sent a question that we don't have the chance to answer, we will personally answer you in the next few days. So one of the questions we received is blockchain technology comparable to visibility solutions?
That's very interesting, Talia. Yeah, and that's what we talked about a few minutes ago. Also, I have to say, before even trying to address this, that blockchain is very evolving. It may be a different reality in three months' time. And so we have to be a little bit careful with making judgments. What I personally feel, it is not comparable. It will not replace blockchain. Will not replace supply chain visibility tools and processes. It will enhance it. So it will bring extra value to that. And also, blockchain, you shouldn't understand it's a transactional database, right? It's this kind of a common ledger which is there, and it will work a little bit differently than we know with our standard databases. So it's a little different in that sense.
Great, thank you so much, Jakob. So this now concludes our webinar today. And as a quick reminder to